Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Sign them up, draft them up. Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here. We are fully immersed, big boy, in 15 hours, hour 15 of the fantasy football marathon here. Remember, sign up and play fantasy football by going to ESPN.com/FFL or download the ESPN Fantasy app.
I love, and I've been amazed because I've grown into being more of a fantasy person.
You were the old school guy for a while?
Yeah, just because everybody, to be one of the cool kids now, everybody's doing it.
It is.
Everybody's doing the it's unbelievable. These fantasy drafts where they're held. Me and Mike went last year to Minnesota to this incredible fantasy draft that was the information that people have, it's unreal. And now stadiums are becoming more fantasy friendly.
Correct.
As far as stats that are given out. And to the point now where players have bought into it to the point of having fun with it. Some players can't stand it when they get asked about, why didn't you score that touchdown or get that extra yard or something completely for a fantasy team instead of what they need for their team. It is amazing how this has grown over the years to where it is right now.
Well, remember, to that point, a few years ago, Maurice Jones-Drew, I think it was a game against the Jets when he was the Jags, smartly took a knee.
Yes, he did.
Right before the goal line to help run out the clock instead of scoring the touchdown.
And his fantasy people that had him lost their mind.
Exactly. Right at one of the first things he said at the post-game press conference, hey, sorry to my fantasy owners, but I had to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And Jason Witten, the former Cowboys tight end, who's now on the Monday Night Football crew and will be joining us, I think, every Monday or Tuesday during the season, also wrote this article on .com, sort of an advice to players: get off your social media, because he said he's literally seen players responding to people on Twitter about their fantasy question. Why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? He said, it's not going to help you. And we always love to talk about how dominant the NFL is on the sports landscape in this country. We would be absolutely blind if we did not admit to ourselves, honestly, a large part of that is fantasy football.
Sure, absolutely is.
It's just another way to bet.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. And now that you can bet, if you choose to, it makes things a little more interesting.
Yeah, ratchet it up even more.
Because we had the first preseason game, the Giants-Browns, they had mobile betting inside that game. Courtesy of DraftKings.
Mm-hmm.
They were working partners there. So it has opened up the landscape, and it has certainly made I think football more interesting to a lot more people. You and I will watch all the games anyway because we love the game.
That's exactly right.
But there's a lot of people, if you draft, say, a Baker Mayfield on your team or a Josh Gordon, suddenly you're going to be a hell of a lot more interested in what the Browns are doing than would you do normally, right?
Without a doubt. That's why, and there are so many people that won't take if they're obviously big-time fans of one team, they won't draft fantasy players from their rivals.
Yep.
Because they don't want to have to root for that person, to have great stats and maybe get a win over their team. Because I would imagine most people are still my team first.
Sure.
But I'm sure there's quite a number of people that maybe aren't as into their team as they are as into their fantasy team than their real team and just want to win.
And let's be honest, fantasy reality. There
you go.
Stuff as we get you going. So we got a lot to get to this hour, including a guy who might have made or broken a lot of fantasy teams last year.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be our guest coming up in just a little bit. But let's start with what's trending. And finally, maybe the best pitcher in baseball is not a loser. The Mets' Jacob deGrom took another step towards the NL Cy Young Award, allowing 2 earned runs and striking out 12 in an 8-5 win over the Yankees. And, Mike, that puts him back to 500. He's got the lowest ERA in baseball, 1.81, but he had a losing record going into last night's game.
Listen, there's only 2 guys in all of baseball under a 2 ERA. That's Chris Sale at 197 and deGrom at 181. So he's a guy that wasn't getting a lot of run support. Listen, the team stinks.
Yes.
And the thought
confirm.
The thought was, were they going to trade him around the trade deadline and move him along, since the team, it basically, Harvey's gone, Harvey's pitching, the Dark Knight, what we thought was
so long ago.
Unbelievable nucleus of a young pitching staff between injuries and now some players obviously gone. isn't what we thought it was going to be and not going to help this team get where it needs to go. So the thought maybe DeGrom will be gone. But either way, I mean, whether pitching for the Mets eventually somewhere else, he has shown what he can do right now. Yankees get the loss, so they're now 10 back of the Red Sox. Talking about that side of it, it's the first time the Red Sox have had a 10-game lead since the end of games on July 7, 2007. Yeah. So obviously dominating.
They're 51 games over 500 now. It's just insane what's going on there. Now, let me ask you a question. I've never really gotten your take on this. How vested are you in baseball in terms of wins and losses for defining how good a starter is?
No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not that vested. I've listened.
Quarterbacks the same way?
Same way, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think wins and losses are a quarterback stat.
Without question, they're one part of it. Now, obviously, if they do their job and hold a team to shut out a team or 1 or 2 runs, they should be in good position. But you got to get some help from your offense at some point. You're reliant on other people unless you're going to pitch a shutout every single game, which we know isn't going to happen.
No. Now, I do think pitchers have more influence on the game in terms of the outcome than quarterbacks do. I do believe it's a little more skewed that way because quarterback's going to hand off a lot.
Well, it's exactly right. The pitcher's throwing the ball
every single play. So I think there's more to it. Yes. I don't look at wins and losses for a quarterback stat at all. I look, did he play the position the right way? Did he win on third down? Did he win on in the 2-minute time? You know, did he win inside the red zone? Those are things that to me much more legitimize how a quarterback played than his wins and losses. Landry Jones, for many years, his only win was a game in which he started for the Steelers, got injured on the first series. Right. Then Roethlisberger came off the bench and played the entire rest of the game. But Landry Jones gets the win.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. Felix Hernandez, by the way, once won the Cy Young at 13 and 12.
He did.
And he was just moved to the bullpen. So wins and losses are not the best thing, but hopefully Jacob deGrom now is going to be in consideration for the Cy Young because he's pitched very well. He just has had zero support. Luis Severino, by the way, now allowed 4 runs on 7 hits. The Yankees are now 10 games back, as we said, and Severino has allowed at least 3 earned runs in 7 straight starts. We continue with what's trending. Steelers wideout Antonio Brown. Good news, did not re-aggravate that quad injury during Monday's practice and was scheduled to sit out drills, according to head coach Mike Tomlin. He finished individual work on his injured quad and was on the sidelines for the rest of practice. Obviously, Mike, it's been a big concern because he had that mysterious injury where he was sent back to Pittsburgh that they weren't talking about. But I heard Adam Schefter on SportsCenter basically saying it looks like he's going to be okay.
Listen. He's another guy that doesn't need to step foot on the field in the preseason.
Bubble wrap.
If he doesn't have to, right? I mean, come on. The only problem is the last time we heard about a quad injury, it was on a great player, and he only played 9 games. Kawhi Leonard. He had his own people looking at it. And
although that might have been
I would
some
say
other
just
things,
a little bit different, but you hear quad injury, you start to get the shakes if you're a Steeler fan, thinking of the last person we talked about with a quad injury. But, yeah, it sounds like it's not going to be anything. But, man, I wouldn't take one chance with this guy at all.
Yeah. Not even like in the last preseason game with all the starters, like one series?
If
just to get the timing down?
Well, listen, if he's 100%, yes. Yeah. If there's any little bit lingering, no, absolutely not. If he's 100% ready to play, go ahead, go play. Go play a series or so. All
right, that NFL training camp report brought to you by Progressive Insurance with more than 30 unique coverage options available. Progressive knows small business. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. And we continue what's trending with Tom. Tom Brady joined WEEI for his weekly radio appearance this morning and told Kirk and Callahan, quote, I certainly expect to be here next year and hopefully beyond. Brady just turned 41 years old in August. How long do we think this is actually going to go?
Listen, I said last year before the season, 3 years. So that was last year, which went pretty well for him.
Yes, it did.
And then I think this year and next year. And I think that will be where he can play. Now, he may play longer than that. My point is, I think when you're talking 3 really good years, we start to talk about LeBron's still the best player in all of basketball. How many more years can he be one of the top guys? That's what we're looking at. And that's what I said about Brady. He may go longer, but I think last year, this year, and next year, those 3 years are his window of being still, at or near the top or a quarterback that can help his team get to the title.
It really is amazing because we're in such uncharted waters here now with Tom. Brett Favre was able to do things up to 40. Mm-hmm. But once he hit that 40 mark, you could see, I think, he had that bicep injury where it was all purple and, he had to miss a game because of that, which ended his streak. What we see from Tom Brady going forward, what we've never seen before. That's sort of where we are. Some other parts of that interview, He was asked about his relationship with Bill Belichick. He says, our priorities are aligned, and that's why we get along so well, which is a nice way of saying they both believe this.
I want winners. I want people that want to win.
And that's about where they are.
I said
that's about it.
All along, all the things that went on in the offseason, which is sure, some I would imagine are true going on with this trainer, Guerrero, and him not being allowed. Now he's kind of back there, it seems. And
right.
If there is some headbutting that's going on, as I said, once they all get into camp, they all know what the deal is.
Right.
You're there for one reason. Why be there if this is a team that's won championships? So to go there with anything else in mind is a waste of everybody's time. So they are all of one collective mind, and they know that collective mind is going to be Bill Belichick's way.
Correct.
Or they're not going to step through those doors.
Correct.
And they are, so that's what they're going to do, focus on winning a championship.
Listen, they're all in for that because that's the way they're built every year. And another team is all in for that based on what they did this offseason with the quarterback situation, and we're delighted to be joined now by a guy who hopes to catch a lot of touchdown passes from the new quarterback, Kirk Cousins. That is Vikings wideout Adam Thielen, joining us on the greatest read of all time here. The Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with the Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. That is a lot of P's in a lot of places. And we're delighted to be joined again by Adam Thielen, friend of the show, who is going to be one of our guides around Minneapolis for the Super Bowl.
Right.
Got a little busy, got a little cold, we understand. Adam, how are you this morning? How are things going in camp so far for you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good.
Doing well, and I think we have to start off this way. Just because we saw your wide receiver mate, Stefon Diggs, get all that money that he got. Last year at this time, Adam, you were 81st overall in fantasy ratings. This year, you go in the same spot 1 year later, 29th. So you jumped a lot of spots. Interesting, you know who's number 30? Some guy named Stefon Diggs. Your teammate is one spot behind you. Walk in there, demand a raise right now, Adam. Just do it.
Yeah, luckily that's why I have an agent, and I get to just go out there and play football. So, like I said, that's why you hire a guy like that. Why I can just not have to worry about that stuff and just go out there and play football and try to be the best teammate and help this team win games.
No, we're not doing that, Adam. Hold on. Breaking news right now. Adam Thielen is walking out of camp.
Yes!
He's holding out. He's just told us on Golic and Wingo he is furious that Stefon Diggs got a deal and he didn't. And we're breaking. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
We're glad you're doing it the right way.
We are.
So tell us a little bit about the transition from Case Keenum, who had really an MVP caliber season, to Kirk Cousins. Because let's be honest, Adam, when you sign a contract for a guy 3 years, $84 million guaranteed, and you move on for a guy who on the road in the NFC Championship game had you guys the lead in the first quarter against the Philadelphia Eagles, you're basically all in. Chips all on the table to do one thing, have him bring you a championship. How has it gone with you and Kirk Cousins so far this summer?
Yeah, honestly, it's been a really smooth transition. We were able to get a kind of a jump start on it and go out to Atlanta and meet up with him and throw a little bit, get to know him a little bit, which I think was really helpful. And then I think we did a really good job of taking advantage of OTAs and minicamp and making sure that we're getting on the same page and trying to figure out what he likes and him to try to figure out what we like to do. And I think it's really carried over into training camp, which is a good thing, obviously. It takes a long time to get on the same page, and there's going to be things along the season that come up and we have to learn from, but it's been a really good start.
See, go into that a little bit, Adam. Take people down there, because I think the position that needs the most cohesiveness is that offensive line. Those five guys have to work in unison like a dance step all the time. But that relationship and getting to know one another of receiver and quarterback, can you dig a little deeper into that? What are, like when you go from Case Keenum to Kirk Cousins, two right-handed quarterbacks, so you talk about the spin of the ball and all that, but what do you have to get to know from one another that helps out the on-the-field product?
Yeah, there's just so many things. I just don't think people, can even begin to understand it unless you're in the situation. But I guess a few examples would be, how on certain routes, how is he going to throw the ball? Is it going to be a firm ball? Is it going to be a little air, a little touch? And then, certain routes he likes them ran differently, and then other quarterbacks, he wants you in a certain spot at a certain time. And And those are all the little things that you kind of have to learn as you go. You have to make a mistake. You have to go look at film and say, okay, this is what I want you to do. This is where I want you to be at this time. This is kind of what I'm looking at and where my reads are going. So there's just so much that goes into it. And like I said, a lot of it you can't really learn from in the classroom. You have to learn from by doing it on the field and making a mistake or maybe having an incomplete pass or something like that. And then you kind of go back and review, talk about it, and then hopefully the next time you do it right.
This hour of Golic and Wingo brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Is Vikes wideout Adam Thielen joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So you are with Kirk Cousins now. Obviously, it was Case Keenum a year ago. And it had to be weird because the first preseason game was in Denver, and across the scrimmage now as your opposing quarterback was Case Keenum. What was that like, and what did you guys talk about after the game was over?
Well, it was great to see him, number one. Got to see him a little bit this summer, played some golf with him. But, just so happy for him. He ended up getting a really good deal out there in Denver. And, you can tell the fans out there and the coaches just absolutely love him. So, you're kind of happy for him. You're proud of him. And, you're excited to see what he can do. Luckily, he's in the AFC, so we don't have to worry about him unless we play him in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to cheer for him and obviously hope the best. He's an unbelievable guy, great leader, and he's a good friend. Yeah,
that game was all kind of weird because Trevor Siemian was the Broncos starter for most of last year. Now he's home with the Vikings.
Yeah.
That was sort of like, hey, I know you, you know me. Just out of curiosity, I got to ask now, who's the better golfer? You or Case?
Well, I did beat him in Lake Tahoe this year.
There you go.
So I couldn't let him beat me, and he's probably not going to be happy I said that, but we're pretty competitive people, so I couldn't let him beat me.
Hey, facts matter, man. The bottom line is you played. That's why they give you a scorecard. As our good friend Herm Edwards say, you play to win the game. So you play to have the lowest score. So don't back away from it, Adam. Enjoy it. Embrace it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, every quarterback should be embarrassed if they lose because they wear red jerseys at practice so they don't have to hit anybody and be sore. That's just my personal former defensive line mad at quarterback type of thing. Sorry about that. Adam, as far as the team going into the season, do you bring up how last year ended to try and use it as motivation going forward, or is it kind of you cut the cord on that and just completely start new?
Yeah, we really don't. I think you kind of have it in the back of your mind, but I just don't think it really, I don't think it benefits you at all to talk about it. I think the guys that have been here, they understand how hard it is to win in this league, and we understand that just by showing up this year, we're not going to get to that point. So we have to kind of go back to step one and do the little things that helped get us there last year. And then when we do get to that point, then maybe we can think about it and say, okay, what did we do when we got to that point? What did we do that helped us get to that point, and then, what did we do last year that maybe helped us lose that game? And we did, we've had meetings and that talk about all of our losses. What did we do that caused us to lose these games, and how can we change it? So it's not just the NFC Championship game; it's all of our losses. We have to go back and learn from those and try to adjust.
Vikes wideout Adam Thielen joining us, who's going to begin his contract holdout right after this interview is over. We're going to beat that drum the entire show. One of the things that will help you guys is obviously a healthy Dalvin Cook. You guys went through a ton of running backs last year because of injury. Dalvin looked like he was poised to be a breakout star for the first few games before he went down. Where is he on his rehab, and how has he looked so far?
Well, he's been out there. He's been out there every training camp practice, and he's a guy who's worked extremely hard this offseason, and he looks unbelievable. He looks like the Dalvin that we know from last year, and we're just excited to have him back because he's such an explosive player. I mean, you see it every day in practice. The coaches that or maybe our new coaches or new players around here, when he kind of gets going, they look around and say, "Wow, that guy can play." And we're kind of used to it because we see it all the time. But no, he's a special player. He's a great locker room guy, and we're just fortunate to have him. But it doesn't stop there. We have Latavius as well, who was huge for us last year, and you saw kind of his explosiveness early in the game last week. So having those two guys is going to be huge, not only for our team but for us as receivers to help us get open and have a little less coverage when they have to worry about the run game as well.
Certainly a lot expected out of the Minnesota Vikings this year. Adam Thielen joining us there. Fantastic wide receiver, 91 catches last year, over 1,200 yards. So finally, I'll end it this way. Has Cousins or Diggs bought an expensive dinner for you guys at this point, or is that coming up in the near future?
I'm all over Diggs to buy me dinner. I'm waiting for a dinner. I think he's going to do it. He said he bought me a shirt. I don't know what the shirt's going to look like, but he did say he's bought me a shirt. So, but I'm going to keep on him for the dinner.
Bought you a shirt?
Yeah, he bought me a shirt, which is a very thoughtful gift because I do love T-shirts. But it'll be interesting to see what it looks like.
You didn't buy you a car.
But here's the thing. Here's what the shirt says. Diggs signed the big contract, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
That's exactly right. In fact, you should wear that T-shirt when you walk into GM Rick Spielman's office right after this show and tell him you're holding out.
There you go.
That's the shirt.
Hey, look at the fantasy standings.
You guys are going to get me in trouble.
Yeah, we are.
Pretty much. That's what we're trying to do.
Sorry, yeah.
No, you're a friend of the show.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on. We know you'll get that payday coming, and best of luck to you and the Vikings as you get ready for what we hope will be another stellar year in Minneapolis.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks for being with us this morning.
All right, I appreciate it, guys.
We are on this show. We are always feeling Thielen.
Absolutely.
There's no question.
Good
about
dude.
It.
Really, really
good
good
dude.
guy.
And
listen, lots expected of this team after last year with the way the defense played, getting Dalvin Cook back. And just what he said, you get those running back mismatches out of the backfield, and how that helps the wide receivers. So really a lot looking up for this team. To see if they can at least get where they got, or obviously they want to go further this year.
Yeah, Thielen's just a great story.
Yeah, he is.
Mankato State came out there, Minnesota guy, and then has found his way into the league and doing all these great things. Kind of the same way Stephon Diggs was. Was Stephon a third or fourth round pick? I mean, obviously he was a little higher than Thielen in the terms of the pecking order, but no one expected Stephon Diggs to do the things he was doing in Minnesota either. So nice to see if they can take care of both those guys.
Fifth round.
Together. Fifth round,
146 overall.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to see if those two guys get together because these are the kind of success stories you like to see in the NFL, like both of these players. All right, coming up, one of the best quarterbacks in the league says he hopes his team isn't soft, and you'll hear from him and his rationale why.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
Okay, you know who's also very good at almost everything he does? That would be Ron.
He's really, really good.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, of course, is now an exceptional golfer, obviously an excellent quarterback. It's kind of funny, too, if you catch him at
Got that dry sense of humor.
Very
dry.
Very dry sense of humor. Very, very dry sometimes when speaking about things that he's not happy about as well. And there was that session, it was referred to as a card session. So explain to people what a card session is during camp again.
Again, a card session, if it's the offense's card session, it is actually a defensive team period. The defense is working on their things. And offensively, you are basically, this is what happens. You go in the huddle and they hold up a card. And the card tells you what your assignment is because you're playing, during the season, you'll be playing the opponent's offense. That's a card session. So it gives you the routes. It gives you everything you're supposed to do. And when Aaron Rodgers did that, he wasn't real happy with not so much the route running and such, but the effort that was going on by these young receivers, which is, quite honestly, inexcusable.
Exactly right. So he said 3 guys did very well, but he said the rest of them just didn't understand the situation, and basically he called them out, saying, you guys got to be better. And, the thought process is he was running with the scout team because he wasn't going to be playing in the preseason game. Mm-hmm. How many times, if you're on the scout team, do you get reps with a guy like Aaron Rodgers?
Exactly right.
Very few. So he's like, guys, take advantage of this. And now some people are like, well, did you call out your teammates? What was that proper? And Aaron was like, guys, this is a business, and this is what he had to say to those that were concerned that maybe he was calling out his teammates.
I hope we're not that soft. I hope we can, hear comments or read comments and not get offended by things. It's a professional environment. It's not a personal environment. The things I'm saying, and I don't have some vendetta against any player. I care about winning, number one. And I'm going to say and do the things that I feel like can advance us. It's going to be tough at some points. It's not a popularity contest. All the time, obviously, as a human, you like being liked and appreciated, but I'm trying to win games because that's my job. I'm not, asked or needed to make personnel decisions, coaching decisions, schedule decisions. My job is to play quarterback, so that's what they're paying me to do, and I feel like, I've made them pretty happy, so I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
What you, again, have to understand is, and 3 of the people involved were rookies.
Yep.
So rookies obviously coming from college, where college football, we know, is a big business right now, but it's still college football.
It's not the same.
You're there going to classes as well. You have your classmates there that you hang out with. It was still one of the biggest difference, and everybody keeps saying it, is the speed of the game. No doubt about it. But I'll never forget going into the NFL and thinking to myself, man, in college, I had schoolwork. We had 20 hours a week, and we do some extra as well. You have practice, games. You have homework to do. So much time. I was thinking, there's no way in the NFL, I'm going to have so much free time. There's no way they can take up all your time.
Guess what?
It does not take long to realize that you're there at 7 o'clock for a lift. Then you're there for your meetings. You actually do more things off the actual field itself than on the field, with walkthroughs and lifting and meeting, and then you go meet and then you go watch film on your own with your teammates when you learn how to become a pro. It's unreal. You're there from 7 o'clock till 6 o'clock, every day or at least a few days a week. So you have to learn how to become a pro. And that's basically what he was saying to these rookies is, hey, listen, you got to take advantage of your times when you get them, especially when you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers thrown to you. And you look in the first game, Marquez Valdez-Scantling had 5 catches, 101 yards. He was part of that group that Aaron wasn't happy with. Equanimeous St. Brown, the 6th rounder out of Notre Dame, he had 4 catches for 61 yards. So, these guys, maybe that meant something to him or stuck a little bit. Valdez-Scantling, he was quoted as saying, when the leader says you've got to pick it up, that's what you do. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. So whatever he says, we have to go out and do it. This now becomes your job. Just like when Hugh Jackson put his arms on the shoulder of Baker Mayfield and said, what time do you get in here in the morning?
Where's your private workout?
A couple hours before practice, before the meeting. Well, why don't you come in with 5, meaning Tyrod Taylor? And he goes, he's got his own thing, 5 o'clock workout. Well, maybe you should get your own thing. Yeah. It's about, find your routine. This is a job now. This is what's putting food on your table, and you get paid extremely well to do it. But it is competitive as all get out. So you better get yourself in a professional mode and your mind going that way and just get in it right from the start. So you have that attitude the whole time.
Well, look, what did Baker Mayfield say in the first episode of Hard Knocks? Wow, this isn't like Oklahoma. It is a cold wake-up for some of these players. And by the way, I want to be 100% clear. I had 0 problems with that Aaron Rodgers.
0.
In fact, that's exactly what he should be doing. If you're a guy on the back end of that roster or a rookie who's never been through this before, and you hear that from him, that's exactly the way you have to respond.
Yeah.
Okay? Because let's be honest, he's the alpha for the Green Bay Packers. Right. It starts with him, and it goes down. And I thought it was very interesting in that soundbite, Mike, where he said, I'm the quarterback. I don't get to make personnel decisions. I don't get to make coaching decisions.
Yeah.
Again, Aaron was a little less than unhappy, or a little less than happy with rather maybe how the GM process went when they had that change in Green Bay. And we know he was not happy with the way they handled the quarterback coach, who was let go without even talking to Aaron.
And then Jordy Nelson.
And then Jordy Nelson gone. So as much as what I find most interesting about that sound from Aaron Rodgers, absolutely he's talking to those players and saying, guys, get with the program. But he's also letting everybody know, hey, if I had some of those other decisions, we might have made some other changes here or not made some of these changes with Jordy Nelson being gone, or how the GM process was selected, or my quarterback coach with whom it was working pretty well. It seemed like those two together were a really good tandem. I thought there were a couple of layered messages in there from Aaron Rodgers.
Listen, no doubt about it, and Aaron Rodgers can do that. He can get away with it. But the message should go to the rookies. Those are the new ones to professional sports. In this case, it's football. To learn how to, as I said, when you are on a team, you are now a professional athlete. But that does not mean you are a pro. So you've got to learn the ways of being a pro, and Aaron Rodgers, during training camp, gave these young bucks a real message on, you know what? You better show up a little more.
And, Aaron was on with us during Super Bowl week, and, he made it pretty clear that there were some things that he was not real thrilled about.
As he said, when I get older, I'm getting a little more ornery.
Grumper, It's grumpy, not you get off my lawn, it's you get on my program more than anything else. And Aaron Rodgers looking to build some confidence in that wide receiver group. Confidence theme brought to you by National Mortgage Lender Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. And quite frankly, that should apply right there to the young wide receivers. What Aaron Rodgers says, apply it simply, understand fully, and then you can wide receive confidently in the NFL, taking that from one of the best who's ever done it. Coming up, one of our former colleagues is out of a job for a very interesting reason if you connect the dots.
Allie's mom knew she had a strong kick even back in the womb. And from then on, Allie was always kicking a ball and saying she was going to play pro soccer. And one day, while she was kicking a ball against a wall, her skills drew even more attention. Her boss said, "Could you please stop that and get me those quarterly numbers I asked for?" Turns out Allie just wasn't that good at soccer. But she was a good accountant. That's why she switched to Geico. She knew they could save her a bunch of money on car insurance. And she sure wasn't ever going to make that pro soccer money. No, sir.
Asking Brett this more. How many coaches received votes in this?
According to the NBCA, Coaches Association, 7 other coaches received votes in addition to Casey: Brett Brown, Mike D'Antoni, Nate McMillan, Greg Popovich, Quinn Snyder, Harry Stotts, and Doc Rivers.
Doc Rivers?
We're saying we have some integrity issues in the vote.
Wait a minute. Doc Rivers?
So look, we're trying to get to the bottom of this.
Doc Clippers?
Doc Clippers?
Doc from the Clippers? Doc Rivers from the Clippers?
Clip it.
They jumped on me. It's unbelievable how quickly they jumped on me.
We're petty.
Sports Center brought to you by Sport Clips. Do your hair a favor by checking in online and arriving just in time for your Sport Clips MVP haircut experience while you surround yourself with nothing but sports on TV. Great cut, massaging shampoo, and hot steam towel. Claim that spot today. SportClips.com/check-in.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. As always, we are presented by Progressive Insurance, and this is why our staff is the best at what they do. They help us in our role as being the pettiest show in America, but they always are very timely with our rejoins, like the one you just heard, where you, instead of saying Doc Rivers at one point getting a vote for Coach of the Year, said Doc Clippers!
Doc Clippers!
Exactly. And the reason that's relevant, Mike, is because there is news about the Clippers organization and someone who won't be a part of it for a very peculiar reason. Bruce Bowen, who for years worked with us here at ESPN as an NBA analyst, did a great job, defensive specialist, won a bunch of rings playing for the San Antonio Spurs, was part of the Clippers broadcast team last year. But he won't be coming back for a very interesting reason.
He will not, because when the whole Kawhi Leonard thing was going on, and certainly a lot of current and especially former players, current players weren't going to say much, but former players certainly were going to speak up. And as a former player who was asked about this, Bruce Bowen has said this about Kawhi Leonard. I think there's nothing but excuses going on. First, it was, well, I was misdiagnosed. He says, look here, you got $18 million this year. You think they're going to rush you? You didn't play for the most part a full season this year, and you're the go-to guy. You're the franchise, and you want to say that they didn't have your best interests at heart? Are you kidding me? But Bowen went on to say, I think he's getting bad advice. I think what you're starting to see now is an individual given a certain amount of advice, and it's not the right advice. So had some what people thought harsh words for Kawhi Leonard.
But not out of the ordinary.
No, but the Clippers, remember, Kawhi Leonard said, want to go to the Lakers, got traded to Toronto, and after next year is going to be a free agent, of which the Clippers are going to be trying to sign, said Kawhi Leonard, because he wants to go to L.A., and the Clippers are thinking, okay, we're in L.A., why not us, why not now? So they want to go after him, and part of their thought process is, well, wait a minute, if we have a guy doing our games who has talked badly about this guy that we're trying to get, maybe that won't go over too well.
Or perhaps it is made, because you know how this works, made through back channels that maybe Kawhi's people might have said, hey, look, man, if you want to, maybe with or without Kawhi's blessing, you want to sign this guy, just so you know, we might have an issue if a guy who came out and called somebody out is part of your broadcast team.
Yeah, me personally, I don't think it went that far at that point. I think this was more, in my opinion, I think the Clippers were trying to cover their base of trying to set the deck and the table to make a legitimate run at Kawhi Leonard and not to have any obstacles. And I believe, no matter what you believe out there about this, I believe they think that Brucey may have been an obstacle to getting that goal. And Kawhi may not have signed there anyway, but they feel to give their best chance, we need the clearest path for it. And they feel what Bruce said could possibly come back to haunt them, which is, that's a shame. A guy giving his opinion, that's what you want, is a guy to give his opinion. You read the opinion, I don't think he destroyed Kawhi Leonard. He was just like, well, wait a minute, you're making $18 million. You're the franchise. Why would they want to rush you? I understand the things Bruce was saying, so it certainly seems like being a little oversensitive to what Bruce said as opposed to us trying to get Kawhi Leonard.
And the other thing is, we actually played that audio on the show, and he wasn't frothing at the mouth, because sometimes when you read it in print and you hear it, there's a big distinction with tone and inference and language. He wasn't like crazy.
No, but at the end of the day, while people may like him giving his opinion, the people who employ him and are going to go after Kawhi Leonard and are thinking, you know what? We don't want this in our way. We don't want Kawhi to be able to think about anything other than maybe signing with us as far as, what this guy who does our games said about me a while ago. So it's certainly their right to do, and it's whether anybody thinks that's the right move or not. I didn't think it was overly crazy, the criticism at all. But if you want to look at it from the Clipper side, you'd rather have kind of a clean slate kind of as come to us, as opposed to, come to us and let it. Now,
we'll work that out.
Bruce, maybe you should talk to Kawhi. We need to work this thing out. They don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
So,
I just feel terrible for Bruce.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I like Bruce. I like Bruce a lot.
I agree. I'm with you.
And it's not like he called him some ridiculous name.
But it was enough for the Clippers to think this could be, even if it's a little speed bump, we don't want even a speed bump getting in the way of the possibility of us getting a guy like Kawhi Leonard.
All right, so the question then becomes, in the spirit of this show, them firing him for that petty or not petty?
Sitting here, I think it's a bit petty.
It's a little petty.
If I look at it from the Clippers side, I can somewhat understand what they're trying to do to have a clear path to do it.
I do love the fact that they're worried about someone that may come to their organization over someone who actually is part of the organization.
Overall, I'll say petty.
There you go. Me too. Coming up, more fantasy advice. We're feasting. Field.
Message and data rates may apply.
When did it become okay for men to be lazier, softer, fatter? We need to bring the men of this country back to greatness with Ageless Male Max, a patent-pending formula with an ingredient that helps boost your total testosterone, promoting greater increases in muscle size and twice the reduction of body fat percentage than exercise alone. Plus, an amazing 64% increase in nitric oxide, which can be handy in the gym and in the bedroom. Take your manhood to the max by trying your first 30-day bottle free. Not 10 days, not 15 days, but a full 30-day supply free when you text the word SKILL to $79.79.79. Just pay shipping and handling. Finally, a formula that boosts total testosterone. If your results with Ageless Male Max are too intense, please decrease use. For your free bottle, text SKILL to $79.79.79. Text SKILL to $79.79.79.
To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We are in hour 16 of ESPN's Fantasy Football Marathon. Remember to sign up and play fantasy football by going to ESPN.com/FFL or download the ESPN Fantasy app on your mobile device, and you will have a lot of fun. Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here. And one of the great things about this show, Mike, is we get the best guests ever.
Yes, we do.
The headliners that make all the news. We're delighted to be joined now in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. The 14-year-old boy running for the mayor of Vermont.
Yes, how
Ethan
about
Sonneborn.
Loving my candidacy. That's exactly right. Good to be here. And I was curious where you were going to go. When we get the best guests available, I'm thinking to myself, is this a tag team, a Shefty showing up right now?
I was waiting for the shoe to drop somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm disappointing, you know?
It's actually Field Yates, ESPN NFL insider, and draft expert extraordinaire, co-host of the Fantasy Football Focus podcast. But seriously, every day someone asks you how young you are, right?
Every single day, which in this business is a good thing,
It's a very good thing. I'm 74, and people think I only look like 64.
Well, and it's always great when, so I've done a variety of things, speaking to, high school groups or, college prospective one-day reporters, and they feel like they can really relate to me more, not because they have a shared interest in going into the media, but because they're like, no, seriously, how old are you? You're like, dude, I'm like, what? I'm 31.
See, you have to bring your birth certificate to show you're older. I used to have to bring it around for my son Jake at AAU basketball games to show it that said, no, he's not 21 for gosh sakes, he's 14.
Jake and I are the opposite end of the spectrum. He's been shaving since third grade. I've yet to shave.
You have to still get carded all the time, right?
All the time. Yeah. It's great. I mean, listen, it's
a compliment.
Yeah, I'll take it.
The longer you get, I was working the women's Final Four a few years ago when it was in Indianapolis, and me and Carol Lawson and a bunch of us went out to have a nice dinner, and we all ordered a drink, and they said, "Can I see your ID?" And I'm like, that is the nicest thing someone has ever said to me.
Did you say, look at my hair?
No, and then they said, well, we have to ask everybody.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, really? Yeah. You couldn't give me this moment?
Just pop the balloon
Give me this
there.
one moment that I still look relatively young. The answer is no. But listen, trust me, years from now, this is going to work out very well for you.
And the fantasy marathon will age you a little bit each year. So if I just keep doing this, stick around at ESPN long enough, I will be gray.
So we look at the fantasy marathon. We're talking about fantasy drafts and people getting their teams ready. Each year, do you go in with a different strategy? Does it differ, or is it just, because we see a lot of the same names at the top, but how about strategy of draft?
The most important thing that I can impart to people is that drafting is more art than science. I know that's a lame old cliche, but
it's true.
But it's true, is that, hey, there are times when, even though I make rankings and we work on them meticulously throughout the offseason, there are times where I defy my own rankings and draft one player that I have ranked lower than another player, even if that higher-ranked player is still available. There are so many factors that go into it. You've got league size. You've got scoring parameters. If your first pick in the first round is Antonio Brown, you feel like that is as close to money in the bank as there could possibly be. That might allow you in the second or third round to take a little bit more risk with a player. Maybe you're not totally certain that Jay Ajayi is going to be the workhorse back unto himself in Philadelphia. Or maybe you're a bit concerned about Gronk every year because he's got so much upside, but we know that health has been a concern for him in previous seasons of his career. So what I tell people is that go into the draft being focused on just value. Let it know that it plays out. Now, we do have a piece on ESPN.com about the 9 basic rules to follow if you're new to drafting, but more important than anything else, look for value and be dynamic in the draft room.
All right, so when you say value, give me the guys that you think, no matter where you draft them this year, are going to give you the most value from where they're drafted.
We've got a 5-player tier at the very top of a draft board, which is why if people ask me what pick I'd prefer in a league, I always say I want number 1. We have research that shows here at ESPN that the most popular winner comes from the draft selection number 1 in his or her respective leagues. 1 through 5, though, are the 5 slots that I prefer this year. In some order, I happen to have them as such: Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott, and Antonio Brown. Those are the 5 players that construct the top tier, in my opinion. But back to value, Trey, is that, all right, I'm just making this up. You could take Aaron Rodgers in the back end of the second round, which our current average draft position has him going middle of the third round in the 10-team league. Or you could wait for Phillip Rivers, who has the longest active streak of at least 28 passing touchdowns and at least 4,200 yards. Not bad for any quarterback. 5 straight seasons he's done that, all right?
Right.
He's being drafted at the back end of the 12th round. So you could wait until the 12th round and get a totally, not serviceable, but efficient quarterback and draft, again, in the middle of round 2. Maybe that's where you take a Rob Gronkowski or a Devontae Freeman if he falls, or a Christian McCaffrey or a Devontae Adams, all those players that are available that you could take in place of a quarterback.
Talking to Field Yates again. His Twitter is @FieldYates, fantasy-focused football podcast with new episodes daily, live on Twitter at 11 a.m. Eastern, or listen on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. So I'm sitting here looking at your top 10, and I see that 2 guys that we had really no clue about last year both went in the third round, Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt.
Yep.
Now they're number 7 and number 9, respectively. Who do you think could be those guys this year?
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody wants to find an Alvin Kamara or a Kareem Hunt, for that matter, and there's sort of 2 ways that they assess finding one of those players. Does that mean that you're looking for a third-round running back that can be one of the best players in fantasy football this year, or does it mean that you're looking for a running back that was not drafted, within the top 10 picks, that can be a superstar that was drafted, let's say, anywhere from slot 20 to undrafted in the NFL? I think the player that checks both of those boxes might be Royce Freeman.
It is amazing.
He's getting love.
He's getting a lot of love here.
You are the third person that we've had here. It was both Adam and Matthew all winning. Now, listen, I got to tell you, I loved.
He's not a sleeper anymore.
No.
I was going to say, the point is, marathons prevent us from having sleepers because we give them so much coverage.
Right. There are 2 drafts that I really love, maybe more than anybody's, from where they got players in the draft. One of them was the Patriots getting Isaiah Wynn, the offensive lineman, and Sony Michel, and Duke Dawson, and Braxton Berrios. I loved all those picks, and I loved what the Broncos did with their draft, getting, obviously, Bradley Chubb fell to them, the wide receiver Cortland Sutton, who's doing great things in training camp already, and then to get Josie Jewell, the tackling machine, who's having a really good camp. But Royce Freeman, I mean, he set all the records for the Pac-12, except, I think, most yards. But, I mean, he had them all for a very productive offense. And they're going to be a run-heavy. They want to use that rushing attack to set up the play-action pass for Case Keenum.
Kind of a chicken and egg thing when it comes to running backs and offensive lines. I don't know that last year a lot of people evaluated the Chiefs' offensive line as a dominant group, but Kareem Hunt made them look dominant in the running game. Was it because he ran better, or was it because they blocked better? Maybe it was a little bit of both. But in Denver, I have a comparable concern. I don't know that it's a great offensive line, but a runner like Royce Freeman can make that group look better than it probably was previously viewed as. But other players that are not being drafted near the top of the boards right now that could present a lot of value at running back, it quickly kind of bottoms out. There aren't a lot of obvious candidates, which is probably part of the reason why Royce Freeman is one of the more popular sleepers at the moment. But people, I always laugh because, the funny thing about the fantasy community is there's so much interest in the game. I was going to say sport, but I guess it's not really a sport. You'll go talk to somebody, they'll say, like, hey, who's your best sleeper? And you'll say a Royce Freeman, or you'll say, I know Rex Burkhead was mentioned earlier on the program. They're like, dude, I drafted Royce Freeman in 3 out of my 5 leagues already. It's like, my bad. Meanwhile,
well, aren't you special?
Wow. So others, you'll say, like Royce Freeman, never heard of him. Who's he play for? I'm like, the Denver Broncos. Are like, who are they? So there is a large spectrum of
you should say they're a soccer team that plays in the English Premier League.
Right,
just to see how clued in they really are.
So I think the idea of sleepers is a bit subjective only because you have to know the audience that you're speaking with. I do think that Royce Freeman, though, is a lesser-known player that could have a lot of fantasy value.
Who in like that first round, like the names that we see, maybe outside of that top 10, who people are going to take, would you say, you know what? I wouldn't take that person.
There are 2 players this year that scare me. And when I say scare, again, it's a relative term, right? I'm still going to draft them if they fall to me, let's say pick 22, 23, 25. But in the first 15 or so picks, Jay Ajayi and Kenyon Drake are the two running backs that and two players I'm most concerned with. The concerns on Jay Ajayi are not about his ability. The guy's a special talent. Philadelphia found something in him last year when they traded for him. Remember, he had, 3 200-plus yard games 2 years ago for Miami. He's got a knee issue that a lot of teams were concerned about prior to the draft.
Long term. Yeah.
He has 3 other good running backs in his backfield. Corey Clement, Darren Sproles, the ageless wonder, and also Wendell Smallwood, who actually played pretty well for Philadelphia last year. And we know they also have had a promising return so far from Josh Adams, the star at Notre Dame, who went undrafted for, he should have been drafted, and he's played well for them so far in training camp prior to getting a little bit banged up recently. In Miami, Kenyon Drake was awesome in the second half of last year. It also took them trading Jay Ajayi for them to uncork Kenyon Drake, and then they go ahead and sign Frank Gore this offseason. If you just look closely at how NFL rosters are constructed, it's one thing when you sign a running back, a veteran running back that's going to contribute on special teams and return kicks for you. Look, I get, hey, we get it. That player does not necessarily need to handle the football 10 or 12 times a game to justify the signing. Frank Gore is not going to play on special teams. He's not going to return kicks.
No, he is not.
You're going to sign Frank Gore, and you're going to put him on the 46-man active roster, and you're going to play him every single Sunday. Drake, Ajayi, special talents, it's not about them. It's about the mitigating circumstances around them.
Field Yates, co-host of the Fantasy Football Focus podcast, is with us here on Golic and Wingo this morning. So we're talking about sleepers, and I mentioned this guy's name just in one of the teams that drafted him, or one of the teams' drafts that I really liked. And because of circumstance that we're talking about, what is the potential for Braxton Berrios? Because Danny Amendola left, and ironically he goes to Miami.
Yep.
And from the University
of Miami.
Trade.
Yeah.
Just walks in Braxton Berrios, who looks like the next guy to do that, whether it's Edelman, Amendola, Wes Welker all these years in New England. Can he be that guy right away?
If I told you just like,
what if I told
blank, yeah, what if I told you? Blank canvas, you knew the quarterback, and I said, you can take one of his wide receivers. If I said Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers, you're pretty much right away saying, like, I'm interested, right? So if you get to the Patriots depth chart right now, wide receiver, for the first 4 games of the season specifically, it's Chris Hogan. And then from there, I think there are reps to be earned. Kenny Britt brings size to them, and he was a 1,000-yard receiver just 2 years ago in Los Angeles. Cordarrelle Patterson, again, brings size, but has been more of a special team standout than a wide receiver you can count on consistently. So where does the player emerge? Who is the player that emerges? Braxton Berrios would be, I guess that is a legit sleeper that people aren't talking about. Yeah. Because we really aren't talking that much about Braxton Berrios, and it doesn't sound like so far through training camp he has been overwhelmingly great. But 6th-round pick, a player that at worst probably can return punts and play in the slot for them. And again, by proxy, right? I like players that catch passes from Tom Brady. It seems to usually work out in their favor.
And listen, another is Sony Michel. I mean, Sony Michel, those are 2 guys that, New England loves to use these types of players. So I think those are 2 players to keep an eye on. Let's go on to the actual football field. What were your biggest takeaways from preseason week 1?
A few things, and I try to get a little bit less specific about players. Like Saquon Barkley, great, 39-yard run. My takeaways are a little bit more overarching. Injuries. I was examining the injuries. Darius Guy is probably the most devastating injury we saw during the first, I'll call it week, even though it was the second week of preseason as it were. And I don't want to belabor this point because I do believe that it's going to be legislated a little bit differently as the season gets closer. Yeah. But the helmet rule and the tackling and the penalty flags being thrown left and right on plays that I think pretty objectively you'd say, what more or what differently could a player have done? You're seeing safeties square up on a guy. You're seeing, Carl Joseph from the Oakland Raiders. I think it was like, the penalty was like he dove at a player's head. Meanwhile, the player, he just goes to wrap a guy up, and the player kind of slides to the ground going backwards, and it's like, what more can you do? So I really do believe that the NFL and its officials are working diligently to make sure that the preseason is our learning curve. We can't have the NFL Sundays be filled with penalties and plays that look like this. But I am a little bit concerned about that just because, again, there were some plays that everybody was like, what more can a guy do?
Well, the one that really stood out to me as Field Yates is with us was the Cardinal safety.
Yep.
Was it Curtis Williams? Is that his name?
I think that was.
Yeah. I mean, that hit on the Chargers receiver. Again, if you haven't seen the play, the Chargers receiver is going over the middle on like a seam route.
Yep.
Makes the catch, runs about 3 steps, and then the safety is right there. and he actually slowed up. That's the thing that blew my mind. He actually didn't hit him full force. He slowed up, led with his shoulder, and wrapped up, which we never see anymore, right?
Sure,
People are going for the big shots. He actually used his arms, wrapped up. I mean, outside of making sure there was a feather pillow for the receiver to fall on the field, I don't know what else he could have done. It was a picture-perfect tackle, and they called the flag for lowering the helmet.
Yeah, so that's something that on a global scale around the NFL so far in preseason, that's something that I've been keeping an eye on. And then the last thing I'll say, like not related to rules or anything else, would be it feels as though it was, and small sample size alert, it feels as though the rookie quarterback class has a chance to shape up pretty nicely, right? I mean, we're already seeing Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen get some first-team reps.
But the hype train for some of these guys after some
okay
performances is interesting.
I'll say for going into their last college season, the hype was unreal. And then we kind of saw their faults a little bit, and we all kind of took a breath and said, okay, wait a minute. I thought they all showed pretty well. 10 years in a row, we've had a rookie, at least one rookie, start week one.
Yep.
Who was that this year?
I think it's got to be Sam Darnold.
Right.
And there's too much, Todd Bowles is being non-committal on whether he'll get starting reps in this game on Thursday, of course, on ESPN against the Washington Redskins. But it just feels like that one is trending that way. We can, by process of elimination, we know it's not Baltimore unless Joe Flacco gets hurt.
Right.
Doesn't feel like Buffalo right now. They are talking process, and they are talking big picture, and they are talking, slow playing Josh Allen. And then also, I would say, for the most part, Cleveland's done. Obviously, it's not Baker Mayfield for week one. It may eventually be Baker Mayfield. So that brings us back to Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. Honestly, it wouldn't stun me if both of them start in week one. Would not stun me at all.
Yeah, listen, the Darnold thing I thought was interesting, but I do think that everybody sort of is kind of exactly who we thought they were through the draft process. Baker's going to make some interesting throws, make some plays with his feet, going to throw some up there. Like he threw a couple up there that would have been picked in a regular season game. So that's something that he's got to get straight. Darnold was accurate, but not overly impressive going down the field. Yep. And Josh Allen was exactly who we thought about the draft. We knew he had a big arm. Right. We knew he had poise in the pocket, but there are accuracy issues. He was 9 of 19.
I'm going to love playing Madden with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Just because, and also,
bomb.
Like he's the kind of quarterback that also, like as a non-vet, if you have a non-vested interest in a particular game and you just put on the Buffalo Bills, he's going to be fun to watch, right? Like, there's going to be some major learning. There are going to be some hiccups along the way, right? He's going to throw an interception, probably just jam a football right into a linebacker's chest and go the other way for 6 points. But he's also going to have some throws that travel like 70 yards in the air and hit whoever it is from the Buffalo receiving corps, Kelvin Benjamin or somebody else, in stride. You're going to say, like, how many guys on this earth are capable of making that kind of throws? Right. So I think from a neutral observer, he's going to be a fun player to watch.
Of the three guys looking for contracts, the big three guys, Odell Beckham, Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, how many of them get done before week one?
I think Aaron Donald gets done before week one. And then I would if you gave me the over-under of 1.5, I would take the over ever so slightly because I think Odell Beckham Jr. probably gets done as well. Khalil Mack, I have zero clue on. I just don't have any good feel for it, right? I mean,
they haven't talked since February.
And a couple of years ago when the Broncos re-signed Von Miller to that lucrative deal, part of the discussion, I know this is a point that was highlighted by Jeff Legwold, who covers the Broncos really well for us here at ESPN, is that it's hard to afford two quarterback contracts on the same roster. What he meant by that is if a player's making $18, $19 million per year at that time, and then he's getting $70 million guaranteed, that's typically the quarterback on your roster. How many teams have a quarterback plus another blue chip player like that? The Rams are, they have the ability to do that right now with Jared Goff still only in year 3 and 1 season away from extension eligibility and potentially, 4 years away from free agency if you use a franchise tag, et cetera. But the Raiders have Derek Carr locked up, and they've got a lot of other, they've already got 2 high-paid guards on their own roster. Kelechi Osemele, Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson, their centers making $9 million per year. And not that Khalil Mack he's better than every player on their roster. Every single player.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of major investments that it's a little bit more of a cap dance than I think it is in Los Angeles. It just feels like with Aaron Donald and the Rams, this is a 2-year conversation that I can't imagine this team, with all the public comments that we've heard so far, is not motivated to have a deal done before the regular season begins.
Well, speaking of motivation, Darren Ravel has just put out a very interesting tweet. Starting today, Bud Light is installing victory fridges that will be full of beer in Cleveland, 10 Cleveland bars. They're locked. When the Browns win their first regular season game, the fridges are unlocked and the beer is free.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
So considering they've won one game the last 2 years, basically they're going Lloyd Christmas. You're telling me there's a chance. You're telling me
the only problem is if their first win comes in like week 15.
Yeah.
Those same bottles been in that fridge the whole time?
Yeah, I think.
You know something? I was going to say, Browns fans would just be so happy about the win. They wouldn't care if the beer was from the 1970s.
Bold prediction, I think those fridges are getting unlocked in the first month of the season.
Oh, look at that.
There we go. I believe that it's a new era in Cleveland, and I think they're going to win games. I think they're going to win multiple games this year.
Isn't it crazy?
And Bud Light will be free in 10 bars in Cleveland, and that's a win for everybody.
It's crazy that it's a bold take by Trey Wingo. They're going to win games this year. Like, I'm going out on a limb.
You
They're going to
put
win
an S
games.
on the end of that.
Yeah.
That's how bad it's been in Cleveland the last couple of years.
I was going to say, for the first month, let's just really quickly, they're home to Pittsburgh.
No.
At New Orleans.
No.
Their fourth game is at Oakland.
Yep. No.
I see it.
Third game home to the Jets.
There it is.
That's your win?
I think that week 3, though.
Unlock the fridges.
Get drunk. Everybody in
Find that date, mark it down.
So that's when people should position themselves at those bars, right?
It's a Thursday night game, too.
Oh,
even better.
Thursday night.
Even better.
On Friday in Cleveland.
That's
Come on,
be,
Cleveland, you can do this.
You know the major college football games or college basketball games where the fans start lining up like a day and a half in advance. Right. Monday morning of that week, those 10 bars, you're going to have people sleeping in tents.
How about it?
We are ready.
That's awesome.
And by the way, a tremendous promotion by Bud Light. Well done on your part.
They've been killing it with that.
Well done on your part. Field, always a pleasure.
Thank you, gentlemen.
How many hours up for you straight? I know it's 16 hours into the marathon, but how long have you actually been up?
Man, let's see. We had the show from 3 to 4:30 this morning. I got a few hours of sleep. I'm not. I think Barry needs as much energy as he can possibly get. He's been up consecutively. Right. I feel okay.
You feel pretty good, Shefty.
And what's funny is Shefty is I got 3 hours sleep last night. I call it Wednesday. That's just that's what he does.
Yeah.
It's
and by the way,
operates.
More than anything else, best of luck in the primary in Vermont tonight.
There you go. Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030. To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
Okay, so the ratings are in for what happened over the weekend, and by no surprise, it was a huge success. What did I say on Monday? Who's going to win the weekend? CBS? CBS won the weekend.
As Saturday, after round 3, it was up 54%.
Of the PGA Championship.
The PGA Championship was up 54% from the previous year. And then you had that final round. 70 what? How many?
70% higher than the previous year.
70% higher than last year. 70% gain. That's called Tiger Woods.
Correct. And people will say, oh, no, Brooks Koepka winning the U.S. Open and a PGA. And he won. Yep. He won the championship. He deserves it. Absolutely. But here's the deal. There's only one guy that moves the needle. Mm-hmm. And as good as Brooks Koepka is, and he is going to be a very good golfer for a long time, potentially on his way to a Hall of Fame career. The ratings were the highest for the PGA Championship since 2009.
And you all know what was going on in 2009.
Tiger Woods was trying to win his 15th major. He entered the final round with a 2-stroke lead, and for the first time in his career was caught from behind.
14-1 when he's leading or tied for the lead going into the final.
By Y.E. Yang of all people. So you can make anything you want, but the dots connect like this way.
They start and stop with Tiger.
With Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
2018, highest rating since 2009 when Tiger Woods also finished second at the PGA Championship.
Them's just the facts,
It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And by the way, the Open Championship this year at Carnoustie, they had their highest rating in 18 years. By the way, the only higher rating was 2000 when, wait for it, Tiger Woods won the Open Championship at St. Andrews. So that's not a debate anymore. Understand it's the way most people look at golf. Now, the other interesting thing coming out of golf after the PGA Championship was every year after the PGA Championship is concluded, the Ryder Cup captain has his press conference. And the press conference ostensibly is to talk about the 8 players that have made the squad. And good for all of them. It's Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, Webb Simpson, Justin Thomas, Bubba Watson, Brooks Koepka. I think I'm missing one other person there. But those are known. So now we're in this great chase for the 4 captain's picks, which will not be decided until early September. And Jim Furyk, who has won a major and is the captain of this year's Ryder Cup, won the 2003 U.S. Open Championship at Olympia Fields outside Chicago, was obviously asked a lot of questions about whether or not Tiger Woods, who is a vice captain, by the way.
Vice captain. So he was going to be at the Ryder Cup, but in a vice captain capacity that he doesn't want to be anymore.
No, he wants to play. So Jim Furyk was asked about Tiger Woods and whether or not he's going to be a captain's pick. And let me just say, Jimmy, we love you. You did your absolute best.
His game's trending, so it's great to see him playing well. You know, for me, the numbers they're nice, good to look at, but not always the most important. We want the players that are going to help us be successful.
Do you think he can help you?
It's a good question. He's playing very well. I think there's a lot of folks out there that probably think he can help us, and we'll, really what we wanted to talk about today was the top 8 players. I realize Tiger's a story. I realize he's playing very well, and I'm excited to see that.
It's amazing. I felt like I was in Charlie Brown's classroom, and all I heard was wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. And to give you the names again of the 8.
Patrick Reed, I forgot.
Okay. Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Reed, Justin Thomas, Bubba Watson, Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, and Webb Simpson. So those are the 8 in. It goes by Ryder Cup points, of which, by the way, so 8 are in and 4 more get picked. Tiger jumped from 20th to 11th in that position.
So even by points.
Exactly. So there's a couple of things here. The announcement isn't coming until the beginning of September about the captain's picks. And I get it. That's the protocol. And God knows, golf is all about protocol.
That is a fact.
I mean, just look at the number of people staring at a cup that got messed up a little bit until who's going to fix it? I don't know. Who's allowed to touch it? I don't know.
The superintendent.
It's unbelievable. So it's either you wait to them and that's the protocol, or in all honesty, Jim, if you want people to pay attention to what you're saying about the 8 that already qualified and you're trying to actually say things that people want to listen to, just say, listen, I know in the beginning of September when we're supposed to announce the captain's picks, but this guy defies ratings. He's the needle, whatever. Tiger Woods is going to be on the team.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, we're going to start listening to other things you have to say. Okay? Because until then, all we hear is wah, 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 wah.
Well, there's 2 other things.
And I don't mean that, sorry, Jim, in a mean way. I like Jim. Jim's been on the show. Good dude. But people are just waiting. Just cement this thing in and then let's move on.
Yeah. I mean, look, there are 2 other press conferences that came to mind in different tones. I mean, because Jim was obviously very nice and gracious about the way he talked about it. Mark McGuire, when he was on Capitol Hill to talk about, I'm not here to talk about the past.
Right.
I'm here to be positive. I'm not here to talk about the past. Or Drew Rosenhaus at the Terrell Owens press conference. Next question. Because you know that he was thinking, next question. Jimmy, Jimbo, Furzy, Jimmy. We all know Tiger's making the team. We all know it.
Plus, when Jim said, I'm here to talk about the 8, I would say, Jim, we know who they are.
Yeah. They're in.
We know who those 8 are, so let's move it on.
By the way, Jim Furyk is a huge Steelers fan. Big-time Steelers fan. When we used to have the U.S. Open and British Open golf rights, we'd go out there. Every time I'd see him, he'd wanted to talk about the Steelers more than anything. He'd talk about one of the golf. So, look, he'll be a great captain. And I think he's going to make the right choice.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
All the way around here.
Yeah.
The unknown is known here.
As he's probably saying, hey, this is a long tease.
Exactly. I don't know. Stranger things.
You never know.
He's going to be on
3-week tease.
Well, sometimes that works out well for everybody. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Maybe we'll get Jim Furyk on to try and get him to commit, Maybe he'll
right?
tell us.
Yeah.
Look, we tried to get Adam Thielen to hold out today.
We did.
Sorry, GM Rick Spielman, also a friend of the show, used to work here. We're kidding, but pay Adam Thielen. Coming up, we will get ready to pass on the baton on the Fantasy Football Marathon. Plus, we'll give you some details on a Hall of Famer that captured our heart today.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Again, we're in hour 16 of ESPN's annual Fantasy Football Marathon. You want to make sure you sign up. You can go to ESPN.com /FFL or you can download the ESPN Fantasy app on your mobile device. It's a great way to do it. Get you set up for your fantasy football league as we're getting closer and closer to the start of fantasy football and the NFL's regular season. By the way, when do you do your draft in fantasy football? When do you do it?
Well, in the one I'm in, it's just on the game day.
Yeah. No, but I mean, if you're doing fantasy football, like if you're going to do it like draft a team instead of like the DraftKings things you do every week.
Right.
To me, some people draft way too early. The point being, they do their draft like after week 1 or week 2 of the preseason. Man, you got to wait till after preseason's over, in my opinion, before you do your draft, because you never know what's going to happen. There could be injuries. All kinds of things could change. I always want to make sure the preseason is in the books before I do my fantasy draft.
I would agree. I would say as close to the start of the regular season as possible.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
We had a guy that came with us on our leadership retreat, and he said, yeah, I got to go back and get ready for my fantasy draft. That was in June.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, what are you doing?
Crazy, right.
You can't do it that way. So one of the things that I love about this show is we tend to get off on some strange tangents, right? We had no idea that we were going to go down this road when the day began. And it started off with what Roberto Acuna Jr. did, Ronald Acuna Jr., yeah, see, I got that, perfect, had done yesterday, hit a leadoff homer in back-to-back games of a doubleheader.
Right.
Fourth player ever to do that. And the other three were Brady Anderson, Ricky Henderson, and Harry Hooper.
Harry Hooper, who we call Hoops. Yeah.
So we did not know who Harry Hooper was.
No, we did not.
And we love the name.
Yes, we do.
Harry Hooper.
Born in 1887.
Died in 74. 87 years strong. So we wanted to know more about Harry Hooper. Turns out he's a Hall of Famer. He played for the Red Sox from 1909 to 1920. And played for the White Sox from 1921 to 1925. He played on 4 world champion Red Sox teams. So he was the guy that was all these guys that are there now that are going through all the Red Sox. So really, Harry Hooper was the guy who helped establish the great tradition of the Red Sox before they took, 100 years off. But I love the fact that they've gone back. This is where baseball is different than any other sport. They've applied a stat that is about, 8 years old?
Yeah.
Back to Harry Hooper. WAR, wins above replacement. He ranked 9th in WAR in the AL in 1918 behind players like Walter Johnson, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, and Tris Speaker.
It's pretty impressive.
He's pretty good in what we're saying there. Had almost 2,500 career hits.
He wasn't a power hitter.
No.
He only had 75 career home runs. He had a career high 11 back in 1922.
He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee in 1971. Had a degree in engineering.
Nice. Way to go, Hoops.
How'd it go, boy Hoops? And how about this? He first trained for baseball by throwing fresh eggs against the side of the family barn.
Wow.
My question is, while I respect that you use whatever you have, did the family need those eggs to either eat or sell?
Yeah.
To make sure they had food on the table?
It helped him start his career.
It got everything you needed to do. By the way, he represented the players in a labor dispute during the 1918 World Series. Players delayed the start of Game 5 by more than an hour, trying to get a guarantee for winning World Series bonuses. Good for you, Harry, for sticking up for the players.
And then, listen, you're not making enough money back then to retire after you're done playing. So after retirement, what did you do? Became a postmaster of Capitola, California for more than 20 years.
That's very cool. That is very cool. So if nothing else today, besides getting you ready for fantasy football and your draft, hopefully we enlightened you about one of the all-time greats in the history of baseball that we had no idea who he was before the day began.
Harry Hooper. Get to know him and love him.
This is the day for Harry Hooper and all his family, and also Jim Furyk. Furzy.
And real quick to end this thing, and they just walked out right when we were going to talk about them. Unbelievable. Ken and Rick from Seattle got the ESPY experience, and thank you very much for your donation for that. They were here through the entire football marathon. They've been here through the entire show. They're from Seattle, and they said their fantasy, they're in a 12-man